Assignment 5, trig values of special angles. So special up here is referring to special right triangles. You may have learned this last in IM2 a little bit, but there's two types of triangles that have special ratios, and they're called the 30, 60, 90 and the 45, 45, 90. These ratios have been given or are consistent across all triangles that have the same degree measure. So these are 45 degrees. If I were to say make this side equal to 2, then x is 2, so this would be also 2 down here. And then you would put in a 2 for x here, which would be 2 times square root 2. The other triangle we have is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So over here, let's say if our x was 2, so x would equal 2. This side, our hypotenuse, would be 2 times x, which would be 4. And then this would be 2 times square root 3. For example, if let's say we ignore these numbers, and I said my hypotenuse is equal to 1, like a unit circle. Well, that means my x would be equal to 2x equals 1, because our hypotenuse is 1, and that's what this is equal to 2x. So we divide both sides by 2, and we get x equals 1/2. So that means this side would be 1/2 now. And then over here we would have 1/2 times square root 3, which can be rewritten as square root 3 over 2. All right, so we're going to use these ratios to determine all of these values of our unit circle. Okay, we've already talked about the degrees on the inside. And the last assignment we determined how to get our radians. And now we're going to finally get our coordinate points of our unit circle. So let's go to the first question and see what measure they're looking for. So they want to know what cosine of 225 degrees is and sine of 225 degrees is. So let me write that down. We're looking for cosine of 225 and sine of 225 degrees. Now, there's one thing you could do. You could go straight into your calculator and just simply type in cosine 225, and we get a number, negative 0.707106,781. The problem is, this asks us for our answers exactly. So this is an estimation or approximation. So this is not the answer they want. So what you need to do first is we need to draw our angle in a circle. So we're looking for 225 degrees. Well, we know from here to here is 90, and from our x-axis around here is 180, and all the way around is 270. So we know our measurement lies here somewhere. All right, so 90, 180. Well, 225 minus 180 is 45. So this is a 45 degree angle. And we have a triangle right there, which is a right angle. So we can use our special triangle, and you notice we can lay that right over the top there. We have a 45 degree angle. And one other thing we know now, well, we know a couple things, is that this hypotenuse is equal to 1, because it's in a unit circle. So if we set, so let's do that. Let's just rewrite our values inside. So this is going to be square root x, sorry, it's wrong. It's x times square root 2. Okay, and that equals 1. We know that. This side right here is equal to x, and this side is equal to x. So all we have to do is now solve for x down here. So let's do the work to the right. We have x times square root 2 equals 1. We'll divide both sides by square root 2. These cancel out. We're left with x equals 1 over square root 2. We have a radical in the denominator. We need to radicalize this, so we do that by multiplying both sides by square root 2, and we end up with square root 2 over 2. So that's what x equals. So this hypotenuse is 1. We already knew that. X is equal to square root 2 over 2. And same thing here. All right. Well, now we have our sides. So we can actually evaluate our cosine and sine. If you remember from the previous units, SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is opposite. Sorry, I wrote that wrong. Is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. So we're looking to do cosine first. So we're looking for adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine of 45. The adjacent side is square root 2 over 2. And the hypotenuse is 1. So a couple of things here. We need to make sure that our actual points are right. So our coordinate here, this square root 2 over 2 is negative because we're going to the left. And this square root 2 over 2 is also negative because we're going down. So this square root 2 over 2 up here needs to be negative. Square root 2 over 1 is simply negative square root 2 over 2. So cosine of 225 is negative square root 2 over 2. So negative, hit the square root button, then 2. Hit the right arrow to get your cursor out from underneath the division or the radical sign, and then hit divide and divide by 2. All right, now let's do sine of 225. Okay, so sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, which we notice is the exact same thing. So I'll do the work, but we're going to get the exact answer, same answer. So opposite is square root 2 over 2, and that's negative. Don't forget the negative. All over our hypotenuse, which is 1. And that simplifies to the same thing, square root 2 over 2. Negative. So I'm just going to copy this one. Control C, Tab, Control V to paste, and we'll check our answer. That's right. Okay, question 2. Same question, but it's just we have our question in radians now. So I have it written down. The first thing I'm going to do is convert my radians into degrees. So to get 2 pi over 3 from radians to degrees, we need to multiply 2 pi over 3 by 180 over pi. Pi is crossed out. 2 times 180 is 360 over 3, which equals 120 degrees. So we're really trying to find cosine of 120 degrees and sine of 120 degrees. So I'm just going to rewrite that as 120 and 120. All right. Now, so we know from here to here is 90, from 90 to 180. So our graph, or our line will be in this area. 120 is closer to 90 than it is to 180, so I'm going to draw it up in that direction. And if I do the math, I have a angle, so this angle right here is going to be 180 minus 120, which equals 60. So that degree down there is 60. And we have a right triangle if I draw it straight down. And now I have a 30, 60, 90, and we know my hypotenuse is always 1. So if I go into my special triangles here, you can see that I have that guy right here. So if I know my 1 is my hypotenuse, so I actually did this earlier. Remember I said this to equal 1 and I figured out what my x was? So when I did that, I did 1 is equal to 2x, and I divided by 2 and got x is equal to 1/2. So we know this distance down here is 1/2. And we know this distance right here is square root 3 over 2. So now we can evaluate. Oh, and these this one right here is negative because we're going to the left. This one's going up, so it is positive. So cosine of 120, that is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we get negative 1/2 over 1, which is equal to negative 1/2. And then sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, which is square root 3 over 2 all over 1, which is simply equal to square root 3 over 2. So cosine of 2 pi over 3 is equal to negative 1/2. And sine of 2 pi over 3 is equal to square root, this thing go there. There we go. Square root of 3, right arrow, get my cursor out of the radical, divided by 2. And we'll check our answer, and it's right.